going on, guys? Alex here from PI Paintball again. Today we're going to go over 3 different guns, and the kind of theme here is the mid-end price range. So we're looking at right around $500, give or take, for this kind of stuff. So I am missing one of the other probably pretty popular mid-end guns, and that's going to be a Drone DX, which I have had personally in the past. So I can talk a little bit about it as I kind of go down some of the featured kind of lists and stuff like that, but I don't have it here to actually show you guys, so I apologize for that. But we do have is a 2014 Reflex Rail. We have an Etek 4. I grabbed an AM model for this, and we have an Empire Axe. So basically, I'm gonna be trying out a new format here, as new format for going over guns specifically. And what I'm going to do is I have a checklist right here of 10 different items that I'm basically just going to go over and go down the checklist and hit each of these 10 topics to try and cover everything about each specific gun. And then at the end, when we're done going over the checklist, I'll just kind of do like a final overview and you know, a comparative kind of thing, and kind of give you guys what my personal pick out of the 4, 3 physically, 1 mentally, would be. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first item on my checklist is overall comfort of holding the gun. So for this, I am going to grab my personal tank right here that's on my impulse, because that's the one I would be using. So keep in mind with this comfort note, the axe keeps vibrating. Keep in mind with the comfort note that, you know, everybody's everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have personal preference with the stuff. I know specifically, you know, I'm going to be using an older model 45 Gorilla tank with a Ninja Rag on it. So, you know, the actual length of, you know, how I'm holding the gun is going to be, say, different from somebody using a 68-45 that's on this Lux over here or something like that. But I guess my aim more is just to kind of give you like a generalized feeling of, you know, how it is. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tank off my impulse and put my impulse down. And we're going to start off with the Reflex Rail, and I'm going to turn the ASA off because I think this tank has air. It does. So let's go ahead and put my tank on the Reflex Rail. If it wants to thread, there we go. Alright, so right off the bat, I do have a history of shooting DMs, so I think right now, to me, that feels really, really comfortable to me. Obviously, the Reflex Rails have what is now the older style UL frame with the older style ultralight frame grips, so it's not the wraparound toolless ones. It's the older style ones, like on my DM7 or any of the older DMs. I think the last year DM that used these grips was the DM10, I believe. And then the Rail and the Reflex Rail have continued to use these grips. That's my personal favorite out of the 2. I don't like the newer style grips that were on the DM11 plus all the way up to the 14 now. I think they're a lot wider. They don't feel as comfortable to me. I mean, I have smaller hands than I know a lot of people do, but to me it's not as comfortable, and I think it defeats the point of the UL frame. So to me, this Hourglass UL frame with these older style grips is just really, really comfortable. The other thing I think is going to be a little bit more preference based is how you hold on the front of your gun, because like I was saying, we were going over in the Super Gun video that just went up. You know, I know some people like to hold on to the rag, some people like to wrap the barrel. You know, I do know some people that like to wrap the feed neck like this if they're snap shooting. To me, it's kind of a mix of like, you know, half my hand's going to be on the rag and right here, right under the barrel, and I wrap the barrel just a little bit, not completely, but just a little bit. So to me, with this whole front end of the gun right here, that's pretty comfortable. I really don't have any complaints. Maybe this little black rubber piece that's up here could be flattened just a little bit. But other than that, as far as like, you know, finger grooves kind of lining up with the milling of the gun and stuff like that, it feels pretty comfortable to me. And you know, the gun being a spool valve, you know, single tube, it's kind of low profile. You know, it feels really comfortable. It feels really clean and comfortable switching from hand to hand. Yeah, definitely really easy, and it's definitely comfortable to me. Again, I have a history of shooting DMs, so I might be more or less preferential to how they feel. I've always felt that they feel really good, especially with the UL frame and everything like that. So to me, I think the Reflex Rail feels really good in the hands. Feels like I have a lot of control over the gun when I'm moving around if I'm snapping. You know, obviously I don't have a hopper full of paint on here, so it's not top heavy like it would be if you were actually playing. But to me, just, you know, initial comfort feeling, this feels really good. It feels like I have control over the gun, which is what I want. And, you know, I don't feel as put off by it as I think I do with some of the other guns. So definitely really comfortable as far as I'm concerned. So let's take the tank off. Let's go ahead and try the Etek 4. And go ahead and turn the ASA off. So to me, the Etek 4, the first thing I noticed is that the whole frame and the grips are really wide. You know, I can barely actually get my whole hand around them and touch the fingers, you know, my fingers on the other side. You know, which isn't a problem, but it just feels like my hand is almost doing this, just trying to hold on to the frame, which I don't really like. I tend not to kind of wrap barrels and stuff like I generally do up front with poppet guns because of the LPR. So I tend to go a little bit lower and maybe just kind of line my thumb up on, you know, on the side like that, or just completely come down, or just completely hold the reg. So in this case, there is a little bit of room between the trigger frame, the trigger guard, and the reg. So I can fit my thumb through comfortably. I wouldn't doubt that a lot of people can't, though. It is a small gap. It's definitely not the same size gap that you're going to find on like Egos and Geos. But you know, overall, it's not bad. But I feel like because I have a tendency to hold poppets so low down here on the reg and stuff like that, I don't feel like I have as much control over the gun. I don't feel as firm. I don't feel as stable, and especially with a top-heavy hopper. And I definitely don't feel as good with it, as comfortable with it. And I think that's a huge thing, because if you don't feel comfortable with your gun out there, that's something that's going to be actively in your mind when you're playing, which absolutely does not to be. You need to be focused on the game and focused on what's going on around you. So I think that would almost be a distraction for me if I'm like switching hands and stuff like that. I actually actively need to find a comfortable grip for me. Again, I don't shoot Egos too often. The one poppet valve I do shoot is that Impulse, and for some reason I think the tubes, it's just a lower profile gun. I don't have the issue with the LPR as much, but for me it almost feels like it's just in the way. And I think this little body plug right here, this little nubbin, needs to be recessed, because I seem to be, every time I switch hands, you know, not thinking about it, that's the first thing my finger starts, the middle of my finger starts to dig into, and that's not comfortable at all. You know, overall, it's not bad, but I definitely feel that I'm more at home with the Reflex Rail. So let's go ahead and move on to the axe. And overall, I'm going to try and make these videos shorter, by the way. You know, I know a lot of people really like a lot of the in-depth stuff, and I'm going to definitely try that. In fact, from now on, as we continue throughout this video, I think I'll just shoot one gun and go down the checklist for that one gun entirely, so I can just put down in the info bar the time. So if you're looking at a review for a specific gun, I'll put the time down there so you can just skip ahead to the video to get to that specific gun. So I'll just continue on with the axe here, and we'll do the whole thing with the axe, and we'll do the whole thing with the Etek, and then we'll do the whole thing with the Reflex. So overall comfort with the axe. The grip frame and the grips is not too bad. You know, the grip, the actual rubber is kind of like the ultralight grip rubber. It's not sticky, but it's also not really smooth, so that feels pretty good. My big problem with the axe and the Mini, specifically the axe, is this groove, this indentation at the front of the reg underneath the barrel, how it kind of caves in and then the barrel goes out. to me, that the way I hold my guns, that is really uncomfortable, and I feel like I'm pinching my hand, and it starts to actually hurt after a while to me. So that almost forces me to either put my thumb through the trigger guard and completely hold on to the rag, or the not the rag, the front grip where the board is. Which to me, I don't like it, because the further down my hand is, I feel like I have less control over my guns, as I was just saying with the Etek. And to me, it just doesn't feel comfortable, because then my thumb's trying to wrap around this raised piece that is the trigger guard, and I don't want to. If I hold it like that, if you look head on, if I just hold it like that and don't put my thumb anywhere, I feel like I have absolutely zero control over the gun. I feel like the top heavy loader is going to make me do this with the gun. It's just definitely not my comfort thing. I know a lot of people find axes super comfortable, and again, this is all personal preference. But to me, this piece right here, where where I'm trying to put my hand, that just really puts me off. So let's go ahead and take my tank off, and we'll continue down the list here. So next thing I got on the list is the barrel. Straight up, I think this one piece barrel that's coming on the axe, it's absolute. I don't get it. It's absolutely pointless. I think it's absolutely junk, and I think it's kind of BS that a gun that's almost $500. The axe retails for $460, by the way. If you didn't know, that's US dollars. I'm not quite sure about euros, or pounds for that matter. I think it's a joke. I think it needs to come with a two-piece barrel. I think it should come with the same barrel that comes on the sniper, that two-piece barrel. I'm not asking for a full barrel kit. I'm just asking for the one barrel that's two-piece. That's all. I think it's kind of a joke. This is the same barrel that comes on the Mini GS, and it's the same barrel that comes on the Mini, for that matter. So that's my thing on the barrel. I think it absolutely needs to go, and it needs to be replaced. The trigger. I've never been a fan of axe triggers. The axe does use the micro switch, unlike the Mini. The Mini GS uses a micro switch as well, but the regular Mini does not. It does use a micro switch, so that's a little bit better. But I don't like the way the magnet feels. It just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't feel like there's enough resistance behind the trigger, and I feel like the resistance that is there is not adjustable enough to make it feel good for me. Obviously, triggers are all adjustable, and I've tried adjusting axe triggers a lot to get it to feel good for me, and I just can't do it. I just don't like how springy it is, and the magnet. It's just, I don't have a problem walking the trigger on an axe. It's just definitely not my thing. I've tried shooting an axe with like a Violent Products Deuce trigger on it, and I definitely prefer that much better. I feel like the trigger is really heavy, which I also don't like. Again, it's all personal preference. It's all how you like triggers. Axe trigger, definitely not me. ASA. So the axe has we're not talking about the fact that this is a regulator as well. We're just talking about the fact that it's an ASA. Has an ASA, awesome. I don't have any issue with the flip on an ASA, except for when sometimes you go to degas the marker and you flip that. It's spring powered, so it will, whip forward. But when it's under air pressure, it really whips forward. And I've actually caught my finger in there a couple times, and it actually gives you a good sting. Other than that, it has an on-off ASA, which is all that's really important. So realistically, no problems there. Efficiency of the gun. Axes are pretty efficient. Technically it's more of a poppet than a spool. It's kind of an inline poppet. It's also, it's more like an automat from back in the day than it is like a modern poppet, or traditional poppet, where you kind of think of like the Etek or Ego. But they're pretty efficient. I don't see any people running out of air or anything like that. I'm not exactly specifically sure on how many pods in a hopper you're going to get off a 68, because I don't do efficiency tests on guns. One, I think that's pointless. If your gun can shoot, if your gun can go out there and you can shoot 4 pods in a hopper, I think you're all set. If you're a back player, maybe you need to shoot 6 or 7 off a hopper. Most guns nowadays can do that, even spool valves. So I don't think efficiency tests are super necessary, especially in today's day and age where most of the time you're at a park and you're filling up after every game anyway. Not a super big deal. So efficiency, no problems with the axe. I haven't seen any. I think it's pretty efficient for what it is. I've never seen anybody with problems. Maintenance. So maintenance is pretty simple on the axe because it is a toolless bolt removal. You can just push the button in and the whole thing comes out. A little bit of grease on those O-rings. Make sure the bolt and the bolt spring is clean and all that kind of stuff. And the whole assembly can just go back in. If I can just push the button. There we go. And that's it. Maintenance is really simple. You don't need to touch the reg. You really don't need to do anything with the board or anything like that. Just take care of that bolt system. Really simple. So definitely, high marks for efficiency or the maintenance for the axe because it's just super simple. Ease of use. Really, I'm just talking about like how you're going to use, how you use the gun in general. I think it's great. It's really simple. Most guns don't have a problem with this today. You've got one button, you push and hold, and it comes on just like that. I don't know if you can actually see that LED. But there, you're on. If you want to turn the eyes off, one click. There you go, eyes are off. One click, eyes are back on. And push and hold, red light comes off. And then the ASA, off, on. Super simple, no complaints there. So, reliability. I think the only point I want to hit on with the reliability of axes is it's a common Empire thing because the solenoid that Empire uses in these axes and in the midis and stuff like that, I do see problems with them. I do keep a stock of about 10 solenoids in here, and there's a bee flying around right there. Get out of here, bee. Anyway, I do keep a stock here in the shop at my tech bench of about 10 solenoids and probably about 10 of the main boards that the axe and the mini use. The common thing I see with the solenoids is one of two things. They either just die or they need to be reset. So you need to go in and reset the main board, which is actually really simple. And then, cycle the solenoid a couple times without air and then shoot it a couple times with air and you're all set. But I think that solenoid problems are that common to begin with, I think is an issue. Other than that, the reliability of everything else, the ASA will get, a touch loose from time to time, and that's just tightening 2 screws in there. They're kind of hard to get to, but it is a simple fix. Other than that, I don't really see any problems with guns. Most of the problems that I see that are not solenoid problems are just user error. Over pressurizing the reg or changing the setting on the board. They didn't know what they were doing, or something like that. So overall, solenoid I think could be worked on. I think the solenoid design could be improved. It could be a more reliable solenoid. And really, other than that, I don't see any reliability problems with the axe. Upgrades needed. Barrel. End of story. You don't really need to do anything, but the barrel's got to go. Got to put something else on there. And the price. I think at $460 is a good price for what this would be with a 2-piece barrel. I really don't have anything else to say about that. That's decent trigger, decent electronics, decent bolt system, bolt out the toolless bolt removal, on-off ASA. Awesome. If it came with the same 2-piece barrel, like I said, as the Sniper does, just one of the backs is fine. Absolutely, $460, no problem. Without that 2-piece barrel, maybe closer to like the high 300s or right around 400. I think would be an acceptable price to me. $460 with a 1-piece barrel, I don't like it. So that's my checklist. We went over the comfort, the barrel, the trigger, the ASA, the efficiency, the maintenance, the ease of use, the reliability, if it needs any upgrades, and the price. So that's my 10-point checklist I'm going to be going over. So let's go ahead and do that for the Etek and the Reflex Rail. So right now, look at the Etek. We already did the comfort earlier, so I'm going to go ahead straight to the barrel. Absolutely nothing needed. This is the same shaft 4 barrel that's coming on Egos and Geos. Nothing needs to do with the barrel. And that bee is back. Get out of here. Sorry, I had the doors open here in the shop, so there's it's nice and warm out. I think it's 85 degrees, so bees are starting to come out. Anyway, barrel. It's great. It's a shaft 4 barrel from Planet Eclipse. Couldn't ask for anything better, besides maybe an ultralight, but You know, if I had to pick two barrels that are top barrels in paintball, it's ultralight and the shaft 4. So barrel, no problems there. Awesome barrel. Trigger. I'm not a super big fan of the triggers that are coming on the Eteks. I think the triggers themselves are really heavy. Obviously, they're adjustable, so I don't mind the pre-travel and the post-travel. It feels good on my fingers. You know, the resistance I get from the trigger feels right. It feels good to me. It's just, I just don't like how heavy I feel like the trigger is when I'm walking the trigger. Other than that, you know, I don't think it's that bad. I think, you know, I like it. It's definitely pretty decent. Just definitely not my thing. I think I could do with a lighter trigger. That's about it. You know, I think the magnet's not too powerful. It's not underpowered as well. You know, that's about it. I think it's pretty solid. You know, like if I had to give it an out of 10 thing, I'd probably give it like, you know, 7 out of 10. Definitely not bad, but not my favorite. The ASA. You know, Planet always has the best ASAs, I think. This particular one is the Oops ASA. It's an all-metal ASA. Absolutely nothing wrong with the ASA. Don't mind that at all. You know, screw on, off. No issues there. The efficiency, you know, it's a true poppet. It's a stack 2 poppet. So the efficiency is definitely probably going to be the best out of these 3. You know, I don't know exact numbers, but, you know, out of these 3, you're going to have no issues with efficiency on this gun. Obviously, it's not going to be as efficient as an Ego LV1 or a lot of the other actual Egos. But, you know, as far as like $500 guns go, efficiency, you're going to be all set with an Etek. Maintenance is super simple. You know, bolt pin up, bolt out the back, drop of oil, unscrew the rammer cap, ram comes out, a couple drops of oil, back in the gun, bolt back in, down on the ram, done. Maintenance, super simple. Don't need to worry about the rag, don't need to worry about the LPR. You know, obviously you need to probably, you know, clean off your eyes or whatever, but you're gonna have to do that with any gun. Probably definitely the easiest gun to maintain out of the 3. Ease of use. Again, really simple. There's only one button, push and hold. The gun comes on. Didn't know if I had a battery there for a second. Push and hold till it goes purple. You know, eyes off, push and hold. Eyes back on, push and hold. Gun off. Really simple. No complaints, no issues there. I think this rubber pad for the button covers and that covers the LEDs. It is, I think you do need quite a bit of force to actually push that. That would be my only complaint. Other than that, you know, gun on, ASA on, ready to shoot. So the only thing I think with some people do have trouble with sometimes is when they go to put the bolt back in, they miss the ram, so they put it back in front of the ram. So you definitely just need to make sure when you're putting it in that you actually attach the bolt to the ram. I think the easiest way to tell is that if you get it, you put your bolt in and you push it forward, you should be able to see the ram right there through that window. You should be able to see that big silver ram down there. And then if you get all the way to the front until it stops, and you can give it that extra little push and you can feel that spring resistance, that's that ram pushing on the spring closing the valve. So you're all set. You know, the other thing you can do is, you know, you can push it in and then, you know, take the ram cap off so you can actually see the ram. And if you just move the bolt back and forward, you'll be able to see the ram moving back and forward. You'll be all set. That's really the only thing I would worry about. Reliability. Stack 2 poppets are pretty known for their reliability. You know, I know, you know, pro guys that, you know, back in the day, they used to take their Egos, shoot them all, you know, shoot it all day, all weekend at the tournament, just put it in their gear bag until they go to practice, they take it out, shoot it, put it in their gear bag, go to the next tournament, take it out, shoot it, put it in the gear bag, go all year without even cleaning it, and the thing would just go. You know, reliability with stack 2 poppets is really, really good, especially from a company like Planet Eclipse, so definitely no worries there. Upgrades needed? I don't think you need any. I think it's all, you know, nothing is necessary. You know, I think upgrading the bolt might be a good thing if you're shooting, if you have a tendency to be shooting, or your field is carrying like a little more fragile paint, like something higher end like Marbleizer or Evil. I don't know why a field would be shooting, you know, Evil and only Evil. I'm sure they would have a couple other options, but you know, if you're shooting fragile paint, maybe look at the Cure 4, the Cure 5 Plus, and the Cure 4 Plus bolt. So it's got that nice softer, the rubber tip and stuff like that, and that would help. Other than that, I don't think you really need anything as far as upgrades. If you want to put an LED board or an LCD board in there, you can. Not necessary. Other than that, I wouldn't touch anything else on it. And then the price. The Etek 4s, currently the AM model is at $550, and the LT model, which has the composite feed neck, composite screw piece for the on-off, and the composite frame, those are at $500. I think it's an absolutely reasonable price for what the gun is. You're getting the best of the best from Planet Eclipse. A little bit more simplified than an Ego. I think $500 and $550 for these guns though is absolutely acceptable. No issues there for me. So we're gonna move on and let's finish up with the Reflex Rail. So we already did the comfort earlier. Definitely my favorite out of the comfort category. Barrel, Proto 2-piece barrel, Proto Ultralight 2-piece barrel, which I think ever since the Rail Max video, everybody knows that it is a dye ultralight barrel. Literally can't get a better barrel, no issues. Wouldn't change it. Maybe if you want a different color or something like that, but I'd stick with a dye ultralight barrel or swap the back out for like a dye carbon fiber boomstick back or something like that. Other than that, I wouldn't even change the barrel. You're just going to be downgrading. The trigger. The Reflex Rails come with the Iron Man style reach trigger. Out of the three, definitely my favorite. After you take the spring out that comes in it, I love how comfortable it is. I love how adjustable it is. I love how light it feels. I love the response it feels that it has snapping back. I don't feel like it's bouncy. I don't feel like it's heavy. I don't feel like the resistance is too much or too little. And then how adjustable it is just awesome. Because I know a lot of people like the Iron Man style reach triggers to kind of reach out a little bit more out here. I like it a little bit more flat, and to me that the dye ultralight frame triggers, both the Iron Man trigger and the regular ultralight style, just like the regular C shape, those are definitely probably my favorite triggers in paintball, maybe including the trigger that's on the Lux, and that's about it. Definitely my favorite trigger out of the three, and in most of paintball at that point. These things are like 5-point adjustable. They're really awesome. They're super comfortable to me. Definitely my pick. The ASA, these have the dye ultralight airport. I'm not the biggest fan of the ultralight airport. I think this little nub that you have to turn on and off is a little bit tiny, and especially when it's under pressure, I think it's hard to move. And there's not much to grab onto, so you end up using the tips of your fingers, and it does, I think it kind of hurts a little bit. Your fingertips are definitely sore at the end of the day if you're turning it off and on a lot, but other than that, it's not like it doesn't work. They don't really go down. Every once in a while, they have a little bit of leak, and the O-ring inside just needs a little bit of grease, which is really simple. And, just the fact that, it has an on-off ASA, fine in my book, definitely not my favorite. I think I like the Eclipse ASAs better. But, realistically, no issues from me. So the efficiency. So this is probably going to be the least efficient out of these three guns because it is a spool valve. It does not have an LPR. So the operating pressure is going to be about 10 PSI higher than the operating pressure of an actual DM, a dye matrix, over this. I think right now the dye matrices, the matrices, whatever you want to call it, I believe last year they were running at 145. I think this year they're actually down to like 135. And the Reflex Rails of the current year are always going to be 10 PSI higher. So right now I believe these are running at 145, which is fine, low enough pressure. Definitely that low pressure that gives you that really smooth shot that's like signature of dye spool valve guns. But the efficiency is not the greatest, but I think you can still go out there with this thing and get 4 or 5 pods in a hopper, which is plenty as far as I'm concerned. So, not the most efficient technically if you look at the numbers, but I think you're going to be all right. Maintenance, not as simple as the Axe and the Etek. You do have to unscrew this back cap and the entire bolt system comes out. So there is, because it's a spool valve, there is more O-rings, are more O-rings to put grease on. Now the grease that dye provides is great. So you take it out, clean it off of any old grease and put new grease on. Screw the whole bolt system back together. Make sure it's screwed together. It's a common problem I see. And then put it all in, screw it all in, and that's really the only thing you ever have to maintain. Does it take an extra minute? And that bee is back. Does it take an extra minute? Yes. Overall, it's still going to be literally 2 to 3 minutes. No complaints about the maintenance. It's really simple. It's still quick, so no problems there, I think. The ease of use, same deal as most of the guns. There's one button in the back. I don't know if this has a battery. Yeah, it does. There's 2 buttons right here in the back. The top one, push and hold, gun turns on. If you want the eyes off, push and hold the bottom one. You'll see it go blinking. Push and hold that bottom one again, eyes come back on. If you want the gun off, push and hold that top one. So you got a power button and an eye button, that's it. And that's really all you need to do, gun on, ASA on, good to go. Going back to the maintenance real quick, the only other thing is, because these guns, all dye guns come with the dye eye pipe now, something that you're going to want to do is make sure that that is clean. If you broke some paint in your barrel or something like that, it's definitely not complicated. It's only going to be an additional 30 seconds to your cleaning process. You're going to go ahead and take that out eye pipe. You're just going to want to make sure it's clean, and so the eyes can see through it and you're not going to have issues. But other than that, it's really simple. Then you can just go ahead and put it back in, like so, barrel back on, and that's it. So ease of use, definitely. Maintenance, definitely simple. Ease of use, definitely simple. One thing I would recommend, just like an item of note, don't ever shoot a dye gun that has an eye pipe, like dry fired or however, without the barrel on, because you will shoot the eye pipe out the gun and it'll go somewhere in the grass, and you'll either lose it or you're going to make it explode. And then that's no bueno, because you're going to need to go get a new eye pipe and blah, 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 and it's no fun. Reliability. Spool valve guns are, if you had to categorize it, technically I think the least reliable of the guns that are out there today. But that doesn't mean they're not reliable. They're still really reliable as long as you keep up with the maintenance, make sure the bolt system's greased, and change your batteries as you would on any gun, and I think it's just going to be just as reliable as any gun out there. So as long as you take care of your gun, no issues, which you should be doing with every gun. Upgrades needed, absolutely zero. Nothing. Trigger is great. ASA is great. Bolt system is great. Barrel is great. Feed neck is great. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch a thing on it, actually. To tell you the truth, I really wouldn't. You can put the Billy Wing bolt in here. It'll allow the gun to run at a slightly lower operating pressure and slightly increase your efficiency, but it's absolutely not needed. Zero upgrades needed for the Reflex Rail as far as I'm concerned. And then the price. This year the Reflex Rails went up a little bit. The standard colors are all going to be $550, which I still think is a more than acceptable price for what these guns are. I truly believe that these Reflex Rails that have been out for the past 3 years, I think are equivalent to like a DM9 or a DM10 without the LPR. 550 is more than acceptable. If you can find some of the last year's ones, they've retailed at 500, which I actually still have 4 in my shop. And if you want one of the PGA ones, the special, with the image print and all that kind of stuff, those are going for $650. It's an extra $100 for a PGA print, but those are kind of like limited ones, and it's kind of like a special gun. The regular price for these guns is $550, and that bee is not leaving. And absolutely had no problem with that price for that gun. So overall, if I had to go down the list real quick for the Drone DX, comfort for the Drone DX, I thought it was comfortable. Definitely not my favorite. I feel like the frame and the grips, I think the grip panels that come on it, I think it could use better grips, more of a rubbery feel. Not my super favorite. Overall, it wasn't too bad, but again, probably not my favorite. The barrel, get out of here, bee. The barrel was fine. Comes with MacDev's 2-piece barrel. No issues there. The trigger, didn't mind the trigger. I thought it could use a little more, maybe spring return on it. But other than that, I didn't mind it. I think it was pretty good. ASA, it was a standard twist on, twist off ASA. No issues there. Thought it was fine. The efficiency was pretty good. I'd say it's probably right on par with the axe, about there. So no issues. Maintenance was really simple. It was more like the Reflex Rail, where you just unscrew the back, take it out, put some grease on those O-rings on the bolt system, put it back in. Pretty simple. The ease of use, again, it's just like any other. It was just like most of these guns right here. Push and hold, guns on, turn your ASA on, good to go. When you're done, turn the ASA off, push and hold, guns off. Pretty simple. Did it need any upgrades? I would probably swap the grips on it personally as a comfort thing for me. But other than that, no, not really. I think it's pretty solid. And then the price, I believe they're retailing for $460 or $450, right around there. Definitely don't have an issue with that price. I think that's a really solid price for what the gun was. So what I'm going to do now is just go down the checklist, and for each of one of the 10 categories, I'm going to pick my favorite out of the 3, and then just a quick summary of everything that we went over. First, comfort. Got to go with the Reflex Rail. And I know, you guys might think I'm die bias and stuff like that, but for certain stuff, I love Planet Eclipse more. For certain stuff, I definitely love die more. There is some stuff that I like Empire for better. I think the scenario guns, like the Defender and stuff that Empire does, I think that's probably the best scenario gun. But we're not getting into that. I'm trying to be unbiased as possible. I'm trying to look at this very objectively. Again, a lot of this is preference stuff, so you have to remember that. So I'm going to pick what feels good to me and what my preference is. If you want to check out what your preference is, I highly encourage you just to go down to your local paintball shop, whether it be here at AG. If you're down in the center of Mass, go hit up Paintball Wizard at Tewksbury. Those are great guys down there. They'll help you out. And other than that, wherever you are, go hit up your local shop. Try guns out for yourself, because I think that's really the only way you're gonna find the right gun for you. So comfort, definitely the Reflex Rail for me. The barrel, I could go either way. Eclipse or die. Both of them come with the high-end barrel that they put on their flagship guns. No issues. I'd say it's probably a tie between Eclipse and and die. The trigger. The die trigger is definitely my favorite, no questions there. The ASA, got to go with Eclipse on that one. I think the on-off ASA on the Etek is better than the UL Airport or the Relay ASA on the Axe. Efficiency, obviously I think I got to go with the Etek. That's going to be the most efficient. If I had to go out there knowing that I needed the best efficiency I could get, I got to hand it to the Etek, absolutely. Maintenance, I think probably the Axe is probably the simplest, because you literally don't have to unscrew anything. Push button all the way out, a little bit of grease on a couple of rings, back in. Even with the Etek, you do need to unscrew the rammer cap. I think the Axe maintenance is definitely the simplest. Kind of strictly talking about the bolt systems at that point, because that's realistically all you're going to need to do on a regular basis. So definitely the Axe for ease of maintenance, I think. And that bee is killing me. Ease of use, can't really pick anyone. They're all about the same. They all have a button to turn it on, and they have an ASA and then a button to turn it off. So, can't really pick one out of there. Upgrades needed. I'd probably say, as far as the best out of that category. So if we're going with the gun that doesn't need upgrades, I'd probably go with. You can't really go wrong either with the Etek or the Reflex Rail. I think neither of them need a single upgrade. And as far as the price goes, I'm going to just kind of go with what I feel is kind of the best bang for your buck. So price, Axe $460, Etek $5 and $550, and Reflex $550. Between the Etek AM at $550 and the Reflex Rail at $550, I think with both guns, you're definitely getting the best bang for your buck. I think at $460, you're going to need to go ahead and spend another $60, and you're going to be over $500 anyway because of the barrel on the Axe. So, bang for your buck, I got to go with the Etek and the Reflex Rail. And if I had to pick one I'd probably go with the Reflex Rail. So Reflex Rail is my overall winner today. You know, I know these guns don't get a lot of love and stuff like that. I'm not trying to, you know, put it out there because I don't think they get a lot of love. I just think they're misunderstood. One, because the name Rail is attached to it, and there's a history of, you know, bad name association because of the Rail name. You know, but overall, like, if, you know, just going up across the gun, this is my favorite gun out of the three, out of the four. You know, I really have no complaints about this gun other than I think it's the ASA is kind of annoying. But is that really a reason when you're only at $500 to go with one gun over another? No, I don't think so. I think at the same price with the Etek and the Reflex Rail, I think is another preferential thing, whether you want to shoot either, you know, if you're not really super into whether it's a poppet or a spool, I think at that point it's a preference whether you want to shoot an Eclipse gun or a die gun. And then beyond that, you know, whether you want to shoot a poppet or you want to shoot a spool, if you have a preference towards that. If you don't, I think they're pretty equal, but I would probably go with the Reflex Rail if you don't have any preferences with that. So, you know, that's about all I got for you guys today. I was trying to keep this really short. I'll put, you know, the annotations in the, you know, all the stuff in below so you can skip, you know, back to different parts of it. At this point, this is the end of the video, so you can skip back to different parts of the video where I'm talking about the different guns. I'll put the times in there. And, you know, that's about all I got for you guys today. You know, I know it wasn't a super thorough video, but I'm trying to kind of simplify it. I'm trying a new, you know, I'm trying a new format with my gun videos with this 10-point checklist. So, you know, let me know about the format. Do you think this 10-point checklist is sufficient to cover everything that I should be covering about these guns? Or do you think I need to add something to it? You know, keep in mind, you know, sit there for a minute and think if, you know, something that you wanted to know would be covered under a specific category, because at that point, you know, I could just remember for the next video to just include that when I hit that category. Or do you think I need a whole new category? So yeah, you know, let me know about the new format, you know, what your thoughts are, if I need to add something, if I need to take something out of it, you know, if one of these checkpoints isn't needed, you know, let me know that too, because then I can, you know, anything I can do to make the videos better, you know, and more helpful for you guys, because I can sit here and talk all day, but if it doesn't help you, you know, that doesn't help anybody. So yeah, let me know about the format. You know, let me know if you have questions on any of these three guns. Let me know if you have questions on a mid-end gun that I didn't include that I'm just not thinking of. So anything like that, you know, just leave a comment, shoot me a message, you know, all the standard stuff. And that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later this week or next week.